Hi, Preston here. I'm going to go over some numbers real quick. I'll explain when I'm adding up some of these different fees that we get across Florida and across the United States, quite frankly. I'm going to go through some numbers real quick. You'll understand at the end. 23 million people in Florida with an average funding fee of $2.75 is $63,250,000 in fees per year. I chose $2.75 because that is the average. It could be lower and higher between the four different utilities that I end up paying and most customers pay. $324,400,000 is the American population times 2.75, 892,100,000. Now, if you do $2.75 times 4 because of the four different utilities that we pay here in Pensacola, times makes it 11 times 324,400,000 is 3,568,400,000, which is total, if you did that average, $2.75 for four different utilities across the nation. Now calculate California's monthly funding fee, about 24 average times 39 million, which is their population. It comes out to be 900 million and change. My purpose for doing that little number exercise, and you can do it with a lot of things. If you look at a lot of your bills that come, there are funding fees on the majority of them. It averages from $150 up to, like we saw in California, up to $24-25 per month that they're adding on to these utility bills, whether it's water, sewer, gas, power, or any other bills. There's probably some funding fees for cable, for your cell phone bill, for any of these bills. The reason I brought this up is in the communities here in Florida, a lot of our elected officials, surprisingly, are not on board with getting rid of property taxes. This is what we need to do with our budgets in our communities, line by line, line items, and begin seeing what is necessary, what is gouging the customer, what is taking advantage and causing our ballooning budgets that causes such a need for taking money out of homeowners' pockets when real property should be what it is, real property, and you should be able to own it outright without the threat of a government entity at some point taking away your hard-earned home. They disguise some of these fees with different names. So if you look here, there's a landfill fee. Okay, plausible. They fund the landfill, but why are they still charging you $21 above the $4 landfill fee? Shouldn't that be grouped in? Let's think about it. The funding fee, $1.50. This is for ECUA here in Florida. Pensacola Energy. Here we have a franchise fee. Is that necessary? Some of these fees do cover the transaction. Me owning a couple businesses and knowing that these transaction fees hurt the customer, I try to find a lender or I try to find an entity that does not charge a funding fee, or they charge the lowest that I can possibly find. And if they don't, then I try alternate ways. The cash reigns supreme. Some of these companies, you used to be able to pay with a checking account or use a paper check. Now, some of these companies are also charging a fee for that. So they're charging convenience fees, in my opinion, for things that you're providing a service for these folks that applies to their quality of life. Why are you charging me to give you money freely in a more convenient way, in my opinion, is a card, not a paper check where somebody has to physically grab it, process it? That seems like more of a transaction than a card. Changed my mind. These various fees that are coming through, when you add them all up, you times it by 4 or 5 with some of these utilities because they're not all aggregated. They're separate. They're each charging their own fees. This needs to be looked at. That's preposterous. With AI and a smarter, we're in 2026, folks. This is living in the past. We need to bring our companies and our programs up to the times we are living in. Less transaction fees. Get rid of the transaction. If you have to charge a transaction fee for a convenience because we are easily giving you an electronic payment, that should be zero fee in my opinion. If you have a company and you're using a company that's charging you a fee to transact, get rid of them. This is where we need to go line by line. This isn't even budget. These are utilities. Imagine if you go through the budget and you start seeing transaction fees or processing fees or this fee, that fee. Line by line is the only way we're going to get our communities in check and stop the ballooning budgets that are absolutely rampantly devouring our property taxes and devouring our pocketbooks, not just Floridians. This is US wide. Until our elected officials stop passing the buck and say, we can't do it, we can't do it. It's going to hurt our safety programs. It's going to hurt our schools. I just heard from Texas. They're looking at totally taking the school funding, removing it from the property tax dilemma, and funding it at the state level out of that budget. That's an idea. Those are the things that our elected officials need to be focusing on, not hitting the wall of no innovation and not finding things like the funding, processing. It's just another way to take money from us, the consumer, and pay their investors and not give back to the community. I'm tired of not giving back to the community. I know somebody that is running for State House in District 2 here in Escambia, Trey McMullen. He knows that this is going to take innovation. It's going to take a lot of long hours of trying to find ways to subvert a way of doing business that is so ingrained in our politicians of seeing no way out that it's going to take a lot of coordination, working together. That is the only way we're going to root out these problems and these unnecessary fees that are driving costs up. It drives inflation as well. My name is Preston Judd. I just did this little exercise to kind of show the effects of the little things. The little line items in these budgets that nobody pays attention to, they need to be paid attention to. That is going out to our elected officials. When you say there's not a way, there's always a way.